Good morning, everyone, and I would like to welcome all of you to our 7th Annual Higher Education Summit here in Washington, D.C. And I know many of you traveled from around the nation to be here with us. You know, we're very excited to have you, especially this year, because we have so many more important conversations that we started 7 years ago that continue till today about the success of our entire community as well as higher education. My name is Neil Horikosh, and I'm the President and Executive Director for the Asian and Pacific Islander American Scholarship Fund. We're the nation's largest nonprofit providing access and support for our AAPI students. And since inception 13 years ago, we've provided over $100 million in college scholarships and have the privilege to work with many of our nation's leaders. I want to give special thanks to our friends, our partners, today's presenting sponsors, Walmart and Wells Fargo, for your partnership and ongoing support each year so that we can provide this wonderful program for our next generation of leaders. And I would like to also recognize all of the other key supporters for us, our sponsors, our gold sponsors, McDonald's, our silver sponsors, the Kresge Foundation, Nielsen, Abercrombie & Fitch, ACT, General Motors, and United Health Foundation. Our bronze sponsor, Teach for America, our community supporters, including Southern California Edison, as well as AAJC. But last but not least, the official airline to bring all of our scholars here, Southwest Airlines, our key friends and partners for many years now. You know, this year, as we did last year, besides all of you sitting in the room today, including all of our scholars, we also have a live feed. So this broadcast today is being presented around the nation as well as all of the Pacific Islands. And a special shout out to our friends in Guam who wrote to me who said they're tuning in and it's 1 o'clock for them right now. So half a day to everyone on Guam. Welcome. So today we are here to discuss how service, technology, and culture are preparing AAPI students for the future, literally developing future leaders, access to resources, as well as strengthening communities. You know, our nation's landscape is changing very dramatically. We're about 19 million APIs today, and in the next few decades, we'll be over 40 million. But yet at the same time, 38% of our API community from 2007 to 2011 went into poverty. So we have this dichotomous situation in the nation, of which why the Scholarship Fund is here to continue our research, continue the work we do to talk about the needs of our community for education equity. It's no doubt that our graduates serve a very important purpose to the diaspora of the nation, as well as economic development. Now, to get things started, I'd like to introduce U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. John King. You know, we're really honored to have Dr. King with us today. You know, he's the testament to the power of not only mentorship and dedicated teachers. He's always made education equity a key priority in his lifetime. He assumed the role of secretary. He served as the principal senior advisor to the Department of Education, and his work has literally helped to close the racial achievement gap, improve education outcomes for all students. And while he was the Commissioner of Education in the state of New York, he was also the president of the State University of New York system. He always increased education opportunities for all Americans. And this is the leadership that he has. He's earned his degree from various renowned colleges, Harvard, Yale, Columbia universities. He's a product of the public school system in New York City. But most importantly, he shares the kinds of belief about what APIASF is all about, and that's building an education for the next generation, the foundation of success for all of us. Please help me in joining Dr. John King to the stage. So Dr. King, thank you so much for being here with all of us. And most importantly, you know, knowing your background that I read, it's just an amazing background, a product of public school system. Can you share a little bit more of your background and, you know, why you're part of the education network, your successes, and literally your trajectory?
Sure, sure. Good morning, everybody. And good morning to the folks who are joining us on live stream in the middle of the night. Appreciate that. You know, I'm an educator because school saved my life. Teachers were the reason that I was able to survive a very difficult period as a kid. I lost my mom when I was 8. She passed away in October of my 4th grade year when I was at PS 276 in Canarsie. I lived with my dad, who was quite sick with undiagnosed Alzheimer's. And so home was this very unstable, unpredictable place. And then my dad passed when I was 12, and I moved between different family members and schools. And through all of that, school was the place where I drew strength, solace. School was a place that was engaging and compelling and challenging. It was the place where I built relationships with adults. And even when I couldn't be a kid outside of school, in school, I had the opportunity to find the joy of learning. And so I became a teacher and a principal and am involved in education policy because I believe schools save lives. Schools can be the difference between hope and despair for kids, for families, and communities. And I take our charge at the department to be, how do we make sure that every kid has the kinds of opportunities that I did, the opportunity to find support and hope in school.
Thank you, John. Most importantly, you know, you grew up in New York City. You saw the wide array of diversity in such a magnificent city. You know, what we do in the Scholarship Fund is supporting the Asian Pacific Islander American students, higher education, but also in this room today, as well as leading throughout the nation, individuals dialing in. It's the Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander Serving Institution leaders. So what messages do you have for the API community as well as the ONAPC leaders here and also throughout the nation?
Yeah, well, a couple things. One is I'm grateful for the leadership in trying to serve all students and create opportunities for students who might not otherwise have them. I worry a lot about the effect of the model minority myth. I think oftentimes the challenges that are faced by folks within the API community can be overlooked because of that model minority myth. So it's very important that we focus on the elements of the community that are struggling and that need more support. We've been focused at the department on how to use data disaggregation as a lever to focus attention on the places where there are gaps, because we see our responsibility as trying to create equity and excellence in our schools. And to do that, we've got to focus attention and support on the students who most need that support. So we've held a series of convenings around data disaggregation, and we recently announced a $1 million grant program focused on states having the opportunity to launch data disaggregation efforts in conjunction with their districts. So we're very optimistic about that. At the higher education level, again, I think it's this question of how do we ensure that the attention is focused on the students who are most at risk. One of the worries I have about higher education is sometimes the incentives focus more on enrollment than on completion. And at the end of the day, it's not about just getting students to college. It's about getting students through college with meaningful degrees. And so the question, I think, for whether it's our MSIs or for predominantly white institutions, the question is always, how are we ensuring that the students who arrive have the support they need to graduate? And for first-generation college students, that may mean additional counseling. That may mean, for folks who are low-income, the opportunity to get just-in-time microloans to deal with unexpected expenses. That may mean support around course selection. That may mean helping people figure out summer job plans and summer housing plans because they don't necessarily have the resources of their families to fall back on that more affluent students might have. So in both the K-12 and higher education sectors, I appreciate the leadership of folks in the room and folks who are joining us, and would just call on all of us to redouble our efforts, because we've got to continue to do a better job of serving the students who are most at risk.
Well, thank you so much for those comments, because literally this is the partnership between what a scholarship fund does, the individuals, the students, and also hearing about your goals to improve on disaggregation data and really make a difference in what that shows. So thank you very much. You know, during the next for the rest of this administration, hopefully beyond, what are some of the goals that you have that you see, some of the key imperatives, and what do you want to see more long-term?
Yeah, we're really focused on three primary goals. One is equity and excellence throughout our system, from early learning through K through 12 into higher education, and overcoming some of the obstacles to that equity and excellence. In early learning, we still have too many students, 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, who do not have access to high-quality early learning. That's something the President wants to change, and we've made proposals to Congress for the resources necessary to work with states to change that. In K-12, we have the highest graduation rate we've ever had as a country at 82%. That's good, but we've got to ask ourselves, what about the other 18%? What about the students who aren't graduating? And we've got to ask ourselves, for the students who are graduating, why are so many ending up in remedial courses in college, having to take essentially high school classes for which they're paying college prices? And so we've got work to do to ensure that in our K-12 system, we are producing students who are ready to succeed in college and careers when they graduate, that we're intervening in communities that are struggling. We know, for example, we just put out our civil rights data collection, survey data. One of the things we know is we have a real crisis of chronic absenteeism, and that's particularly true for some communities within the AAPI community, or Pacific Islanders, for example. We see very high rates of chronic absenteeism. That is, students who are missing more than 15 days in the school year. And if you're not in school, you're not learning. And we know the students who are chronically absent are more likely to be retained in grade, more likely to drop out. So in K-12, we've got to respond to that challenge. And then in higher education, again, we've got to be focused on the supports our most at-risk students need. So equity and excellence is the first goal. Second goal is around lifting up teachers. As I said, teachers saved my life. My teacher in 4th, 5th, 6th grade, Mr. Osterweil, if not for him, I wouldn't be alive today, or maybe I'd be in prison today. He made school a place that was compelling and interesting and engaging and supported me. And so we've got to lift up our teachers. We've got to get a more diverse teacher workforce, including attracting more teachers within the API community. Today, majority of our students are students of color. Only 18% of our teachers are teachers of color. That's a reality we've got to change. And so ensuring there was strong teacher preparation, professional development, and support, critical. The third goal is around higher education. And we've focused a lot on access and affordability, and those continue to be priorities. And alongside that, we've got to focus on completion. We know, for example, that a significant number of the students who default on their debt are students who started school but didn't finish. You know, if you're able to go to school, finish, get a good degree that with meaningful skills, you're likely to be able to pay off your debt. But if you drop out before you finish, you're in big trouble. And we see people caught in a cycle where they have some classes, a bunch of debt, can't finish their degree, can't get a good job because they don't have the degree, and so they're just stuck. And so we've really got to focus on completion and ensuring that students have the supports necessary to complete. And then we've got to make sure that people who choose careers in public service have the opportunity to have the support to pay off their debt. And so we've got a public service loan forgiveness effort. We've got something called income-driven repayment, which allows students to cap their payments on their direct loans at 10% of their income. So we want to make it possible for folks to choose careers of public service.
Well, all I can say to what you just said for your three priorities, knowing that I saw a lot of heads nodding affirmatively, we have the right person in the job as Secretary of Education. So thank you for helping to lead the nation in higher education and K-12 space. So really thank you. So what I would like to do is open up one question to one of our scholars, Rio Reina Pilar from St. Mary's University. She's a UHF Macy's scholar. So where's Rio?
Hello. Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is, what is the Department of Education or the Obama administration doing to protect student borrowers and make sure college degree is affordable?
Yeah, I mean, this is as I said, a priority for us. The income-driven repayment, I think, helps folks to be able to make sure that they can match what they're paying to their income. Because of the direct loan program, we've been able, over the course of the administration, to move $60 billion that would have gone to banks to students instead. That was an important step. We've added more than 1,000 additional dollars to Pell Grants. We think the Pell Grant program is hugely important and needs to be expanded in some smart ways. One of the things the President has proposed is allowing Pell Grants to be used in the summer so that students can use Pell Grants year-round, which will help students stay on track to graduation. We worry a lot that some of our borrowers who are most at risk are the students who've attended schools that are defrauding them. And we took action this week to propose new regulations to protect borrowers from colleges that have done the wrong thing and also to hold those colleges accountable. We've got to make sure that the higher education sector is delivering quality degrees, not taking advantage of students. And we're going to continue to be very forceful on the issue of higher ed institutions that are taking advantage. But I will say we need partnership from states. And when you look at the extent to which the cost of higher education now falls more squarely on students and families than it once did, that is often driven by states reducing their investment in public higher education. And so we really need to call on governors and legislators to focus on investing in our public higher ed institutions. They are one of the best drivers of economic development in our states. They are a path to the middle class. And we need governors and legislators to lead. So there's a federal role, and we're going to continue to be aggressive on issues of access, affordability, and completion. But we need states to step up as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Rio. We have another question from one of our scholars, Tien Viet, who is a USA Funds scholar from Cal State University, Sacramento.
Good morning, everyone. And I want to first thank Dr. John King on his tireless efforts at the Department of Education. And my question is, what advice would you give to the scholars in this room about how we can contribute to the goals of excellence and equity among all students? Thank you.
Thanks for that question. A couple things. One is do well in school and graduate, right? We need you to do that first and foremost. I don't want to sound like your parents, but do well in school and graduate. Two is to give back. And, you know, I very much believe in the notion that to whom much is given, much is expected. And all of us who've had the benefit of educational opportunities need to make sure that future generations of students have that. And so figuring out, you may not choose a career in education necessarily, although I hope many of you will choose to become teachers. But whatever profession you choose, figuring out how you can give back to the community, whether it's mentoring young people in your community, supporting folks who are struggling with issues of housing or access to food, just figuring out what's the role you want to play in your community to help young people and families to be successful, and how can you give of your time to support those efforts. I think that's critical. Third thing I'd say is be advocates with your institutions. You know, higher ed institutions, many of them are doing a great job supporting students who are first-generation college students, students who are at risk, students who are undocumented. But sadly, many of them are not. And we need you to be voices on your campuses, and then when you're alumni and involved in your university, pushing universities to think about, could we be serving more Pell-eligible students? Could we be providing more supports for our low-income students? Could we be more thoughtful about how we serve our undocumented students and give them access to resources? Are we thinking about the challenges that our students face who are homeless, who are foster youth? Right? We've got to call on higher ed institutions to take real social responsibility for trying to serve students as well as possible, particularly those who are at risk. And your leadership on that will be very powerful. And the last thing I'd say, particular to the AAPI community, I think we've got to continue to work together to challenge the model minority myth and to push all of our institutions at every level of government to disaggregate data and to look closely at where are the communities that need additional support and respond to those needs.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, Secretary King, we really appreciate you being here and spending your morning with us. It's truly an honor to have you here, and I thank you for your time. I know you have many other meetings today, and you carved some time out to meet with us. So on behalf of all of us, together with my board and advisors and literally everyone here in this audience, together with everyone live stream across the Pacific line, we want to thank you for your support and leadership in the nation.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to take a photograph.